record this. All right. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today with our Tea Time with Tucker. We are, those of you who are just logging in right now, we appreciate you, those of you who joined us early. All participants are in a listen-only mode, which means that you can correspond or communicate via chat or the Q&A feature. We also have Bo Carr, who is our co-host today. He'll be monitoring that chat and that Q&A and getting back with us if we see we need to stop here, because this conversation today usually does have a few more questions involved in it because it's more of a personal situation. So if it's something that's very specific to your situation, we'll probably get back to you, or Bo will try to answer it on the side. If it's generic in nature, we'll talk about it and address it as we go through here. But it is straight up 10:30, and we do appreciate you joining us on time. My name is John Green with Association Member Benefits Advisors, joined by Sabra Tucker, OREA Executive Director. And we're going to talk a little bit about, first of all, kind of spill the tea with Tea Time with Tucker here as more folks join us. But for those of you who've just jumped in, real quick housekeeping before we go ahead and go forward. We are recording this presentation today. This is probably our most commonly asked for presentation when talking about long-term care insurance and long-term care issues, things like that, because many of the members like to share this with a son or a daughter, or maybe even a parent, depending upon their age, things like that. They want to go over it. So we'll talk about that as well. We've also, participants are in a listen-only mode. And what that means is that you can ask your questions in the chat feature or in the Q&A feature, and we'll be able to answer those or stop periodically and go through there as well on that. So we are recording this. You'll notice that QR code down there in the bottom. If you have access to your phone, you can hover over it with your camera feature, just like we do restaurants. The QR code's there to see the menus, and I'll give you an opportunity to seek more information in regards to some of the topics that we talk about today. So Sabra, let's go ahead and get started here. We've got folks that are logging in, but as we do that, we want to just kind of keep us up to date on what's going on. I do have a couple of questions for you after we get rolling here, but kind of tell us what's going on in the world of OREA right now.
Well, one of the things, or a couple of things we've really been paying attention to, John, are our interim studies at the state legislature. One was held last week that looked at the teacher shortage problem that we have, and kind of looked at the whole teacher pipeline from a student at university moving into an active career and into retirement. And one of the things that came out in that study is things, especially on our end, is that retirement is something that is looking more and more attractive to people as the stressors in school are just seem to be getting greater and greater. And people are so grateful for that retirement benefit that they've worked their whole career to have. And they're glad that it's there, and they're able to retire and maybe do some fun things or enjoy life a little bit, or maybe take some better care of their health, because teaching has become quite a stressful career. And you add a worldwide pandemic on top of that, and so maybe looking at ending those education careers is becoming attractive to many. And in fact, we had a record number of retirees this past year, which was more than double the amount of teacher education graduates that we had in the state of Oklahoma. So we take our job at OREA very seriously, that we are the watchdog for our pension system. And we want to make sure for those people who put in a career of nurturing our youth and our future of this country, that their retirement is secure when they get there, and that they can, in their retirement years, for a benefit that it may be modest, but it's there for the rest of their life. Another interim study that we're looking at is coming up on November 4th. And it is a study that was requested by Representative Avery Fricks of Muskogee, and it will look at the positives of Oklahoma's public pension systems by emphasizing the fiscal impact that retiree dollars have on our state and local economies. Each of the systems will also present a short summary of the performance of their systems this past year. In fact, I am attending a meeting today with the Teacher Retirement System Board of Trustees to hear our annual actuarial report. We know returns were, well, they were a record this year of 33% return on our investments. And we will hear the actuaries report on the health of our system, the funded level, years from 100% funding, et cetera. So that's going on this afternoon. And that study again is November 4th. And another thing that is happening this time of year, every year, is open enrollment for your health insurance. And whether you're on the state insurance plan or you're on outside of the state insurance plan, this is that time of year to either make changes or decide if you're happy with what you have and stay the same. And of course, that's something that our AMBA representatives here in Oklahoma, David Moritz and his team, can help people with if they have questions. And also people are welcome to call the state office. And I'm by no means an expert, but I do try to keep my finger on the pulse of what's happening with the state insurance plan. And the dates to remember for the state insurance are October 15th, which just happened, and through December 7th. You need to be able to make your decision by then. And I do believe that the Employee Group Insurance Division has mailed out those benefit option books for people to take a look at. And so let us know if you have any questions. Either our office or David and his team can help people with that.
Great. In this interim time, is there anything that the membership of OREA can do to contact legislators in support of anything, or is it just kind of lay low right now?
Well, it feels like a relaxing time, but I can tell you behind the scenes, we're having talks with local legislators. This is a great time since they're not in session to touch base with your local legislator and say, hey, thanks for your support last session, and we look forward to your continued support in 2022. We hope that you will notice that our teacher retirement system is doing well, and we'll work to continue to help protect the security of our teacher retirement system. And also by making sure that future teachers have that same secure retirement benefit in the form of a pension. And because there is some ideas floating around in our legislature that maybe new teachers would rather have a 401k or 403b actually style of retirement. And we know that it may sound fine if you're 22 and starting out in your teaching career, but the numbers just don't support the same type of retirement security for public employees because their salary tends to be smaller than those in the private sector. So a defined benefit pension is definitely the way to go for retirement. So if you have those conversations with your local state senator or local state representative, it's always a good time to remind them of this. And if you forge those relationships now, it's easier to make a call when a controversial piece of legislation comes up and you need to call and say, hey, remember me? This is my concern about this piece of legislation. So yeah, it's a great time to visit with them.
Could be
Thanks,
a good time to
John.
get them out to your units and have them share what's going on in their thought process. I would encourage you to go check out the Facebook page for OREA. There's a pretty neat article out there talking about teacher retention versus retirement versus new hires. And it's good talking points that you can help educate yourself on. So Sabre,
Yes.
Thank you so much for what you do for the group, as well as sharing with us today. And if you'll stay with us, if we have any questions in the chat or the Q&A, feel free to drop those in there. Sabre can address those, and then we'll talk about some of them at the end as well. Sound good?
That's great. And thank everyone for tuning.
All right. Thank you very much. Just a couple of Reintroduction to myself. My name is John Green. I work with Association Member Benefits Advisors, and I have lived a little bit north of Houston, but my wife is a 32-year teacher, elementary school teacher in the Conroe area north of Houston. I started my educational career or journey in Bethany, Oklahoma at Lake Park Elementary. That's a picture of me down there in the bottom right left-hand corner there of the screen. My family follows the Baylor Bears everywhere, so I appreciate what Oklahoma State and Oklahoma have done to beat the Longhorns the past 2 weeks. So hope we can continue that here in a few weeks as well. So I love doing that and look forward to that as well. So real quickly, just to kind of, walk you through how AMBA and the association works together. You get your pension on a monthly basis. You acquire your health care through maybe a spouse, through the state, through your retirement plan, as Sabre talked about as well. Other benefits, depending upon how you acquired your benefits from the school or from a spouse there. That's what AMBA and the association, OREA, do on your behalf to support you as members. And then OREA comes on top of that and make sure that they're a huge pension watchdog. They're looking out for your pension at all times. And as Sabre mentioned it a couple of times throughout there, even though they're not in session right now, the stuff that OREA does behind the scenes to monitor what's going on, to put you in a position to answer those questions, ask those hard questions even of our legislators in regards to your pension, to make sure not only your pension is secure, but those teachers coming right out of college, that their pension is secure whenever they're ready to retire, and maybe want to maintain this as a profession throughout their career. To preserve those health benefits, very active in pay raises, make sure that those are out there for active teachers, cost of living increases, things like that. Just as important, keep you connected. It's so important, especially in this COVID time. Even if we can't see each other face to face, we can get together on Zoom, then come back together whenever the opportunities allow that for that, but keep us connected. Very important part of that. And then to offer those important benefits, those discounts, the things that you can't get anywhere else except through your association. That's the role that OREA provides for you as a member of OREA. At AMBA, Association Member Benefits Advisors, we serve over 70 associations very similar to yours. Public servants, retired educators, active and retired state employees, firefighters, police officers, different groups like that. For over 40 years, we've done this. In Oklahoma, our leader is David Moritz. He and his team are there scattered throughout the state to provide you with all those services that you need to help you understand more of the benefits that you have with OREA. Review what you have, what's available to you, all the free stuff, all the other things that are available to you out there, to make sure that there's not any gaps in what you have, and make sure that you're not at any financial hardship should something happen to you. And that's what David and his team are there for. We have a wide variety of benefits, and the benefit of being partnered together between OREA and AMBA is that we can fill those gaps that are not covered by your state benefits or what you maybe receive from your district. They're portable. If you leave the state for whatever reason, those benefits go with you. They're not tied to any network or anything like that. But two of the leading reasons why OREA members appreciate having the benefits that they have through OREA and AMBA is they can extend those benefits to family members or to parents that may have not be eligible for their state benefits or the benefits they receive from their district. It could be a son or a daughter who's now past age 26 and aged out of their dental or vision benefits. It may be a parent that did not have access to some type of long-term care coverage or recovery care coverage, something like that, or even a Medicare supplement. Now you can extend your benefits by being an OREA member to those family members. And most importantly, we find that many educators, once they retire, they still take a second job. They have a career after they leave the schoolhouse. And having the proper type of coverage, maybe on a loved one, a parent, an aunt or an uncle or something like that, can prevent them from having to stop their career quicker or having to take extra time off that's unpaid because of the lack of PTO. They can do that because they have these proper benefits. And we're going to talk about one that's probably the most misunderstood, but the most important, in my opinion, and I'll share from my personal experience with my father's experience with long-term care needs, and talk about long-term care insurance. And our goal in this is to kind of discover the myths and the facts surrounding that, and discuss really what is the need for any type of long-term care coverage and what that means, what the protection level means, elder care, those type of things. We're going to discuss the traditional components of a long-term care policy, just so that you have a base knowledge of what that is, so that anytime somebody says long-term care or elder care, you kind of know what that means in general. We're going to discuss the costs of care in Oklahoma, let you understand what that looks like, the cost of waiting, what your solutions are, your endorsed options are from OREA as we go forward as well. This graphic really illustrates the reason why we have this conversation today. Long-term care insurance and long-term care, the concept of it was really introduced back in the 80s, and the amount of policies that were taken and offered escalated rapidly up through the year 2000. You had many school districts, you had many states offer this as an optional group coverage, which basically meant that you signed up, you were covered regardless, there were no health issues, no health questions, anything like that. Well, all of a sudden, as we as a population aged and the need to activate and claim on those long-term care policies took place, all of a sudden companies realized they did not do a good job in underwriting or holding reserves out there to pay these claims. So they went in and started raising premiums, really tightened up their guidelines, the requirements to qualify for a policy, went back and put massive rate increases, and all of a sudden states and districts started dropping these plans. And you see a significant decline in long-term care policies being purchased. The problem is when you look at protecting your future, long-term care really has a great impact on not only the people who need the care, it impacts the families that have to provide the care, and can even impact grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and things like that. And I'll kind of share that with you in a moment. I want to do a quick quiz, and I love giving pop quizzes to teachers because I got so many of those as when I was growing up. Just write down true or false on a piece of paper here. True or false, long-term disability and long-term care are the same thing. True or false, very few people ever need extended long-term care for any reason. And only people over 50 need type of long-term care. True or false, nursing home confinement is the only long-term care option. And Medicare, it pays for everything. I should just wait till I'm retired or wait till I'm 75 or something like that to talk about long-term care. In each and every one of these situations, that answer is false. And I'm going to walk you through today a little bit why those are false, kind of share with you my personal experience with long-term care with my father, the situation that he had, and then talk a little bit more about what your options are, and then help you understand just the basics, just so that you understand what's out there. And if you've got questions, how we can continue that going forward. The fact is 70% of us, once we reach the age of 65, are going to need some form of extended care in our lifetime. And it may not be nursing home. It may be in your home. It may be after a result of a surgery, something like that. But the fact is more than most will need some type of care once we reach age 65 or over. And so just to give you a baseline understanding of the term long-term care insurance policy, a traditional long-term care policy is made up of several components. And to qualify to receive benefits from a long-term care policy, think about this in terms of a hamburger, the illustration I'm going to show you here. You have to have a qualifying event to qualify for long-term care insurance or to activate a policy that you already have in place. One of these is called the activities of daily living. If you have a long-term care policy, most of them will say that you have to lose 2 or 3 of the activities of daily living before your policy goes into effect. So we're talking things like bathing, toileting, dressing, transferring yourself maybe out of bed into a chair, something like that, being able to take care of yourself in 2 of these ways. So if you lose 2 of these or more, it activates your policy. The other way is a cognitive impairment, such as dementia or Alzheimer's. And in the case of my father, he did have long-term care insurance. We were very blessed with that. He had dementia, vascular dementia, resulting from a couple of strokes that he had. So he still had the ability to do his activities of daily living, but he couldn't do some other things and was more of a risk to himself because of the onset of his dementia. So his cognitive impairment qualified him to activate his long-term care policy. So it's one of the two. It does not have to be both. It's got to be one of the two, either cognitive impairment like Alzheimer's or dementia, or losing two of the activities of daily living. Once you lose one of those, then you have a daily benefit amount. In a traditional long-term care policy, it's usually anywhere from $100 to $300 a day is your daily benefit amount. Some policies will give you a lifetime maximum, say that you have X number of hundreds of thousands of dollars that you can use for long-term care. Most policies, they just give you a set daily benefit amount that you can have. And then you have a length of coverage out there. Many traditional long-term care policies had a 3-year, a 5-year, or a lifetime coverage of benefits of coverage. Okay, coverage benefits. So what that means is that you could be paying for in premiums a significant amount of coverage that you may never use. And we're going to talk about that more in Long-Term Care 201 here in a few weeks. But I really want to get you to understand the concept of length of coverage. You purchase your daily benefit amount for an X period of time. And that really makes long-term care policies sometimes very expensive. Then you have an elimination period. And I know everyone in Oklahoma is very familiar with your deductible on your homeowner's insurance policy. That's just in case a hailstorm or a tornado rolls through, you have damage to your roof. That deductible is that dollar amount that you have to pay out of your pocket before the insurance company pays for repairs to your roof. The elimination period is the exact same thing. It's the amount of money you have to pay out of your pocket before your daily benefit goes into effect. And oftentimes this could be 30, 60, 90, 180 days before a policy goes into effect. And we're going to talk about some of the challenges with that, because you've got to come up with some money up front before your long-term care policy kicks in. Then you have location of coverage. And this is such a very important thing to understand. And this is why I encourage you, if you're on this call and you have long-term care insurance already, first of all, congratulations, you've done a phenomenal thing for yourself and your family. We'll reinforce that in a moment. But you want to make sure that you understand and have someone review your policy. And I'm going to give you the opportunity to do that in a moment there. But location of coverage could be that you only receive care in a nursing home, or you could receive care in an assisted living care facility, an adult daycare, or at home, things like that. So location of coverage is crucial as to what you have in your policy. Then you have in there some type of inflation protection, usually be an optional rider, because if you took this policy out 20 years ago for $100 a day, you can't even get a cheap room with 4 or 5 people in it for $100 a day today. So inflation protection will help keep that going, keep that benefit going up as you go along as well. Non-skilled services, a very rare component of long-term care, which basically means that it would pay for somebody to come in and cook for you, or do some housework, some cleaning, things like that, or even just sit up. Like in the case of my father, my stepmother, she still continued to work, but she needed someone to come in just to make sure that my father was not a flight risk, that he wouldn't just wander off and hurt himself, something like that. Some of these non-skilled services in traditional long-term care policies are not covered. And so it's important to understand what you have in that. So that's just a basic look. We know we go a little in depth in this. It is a long-term care 101 conversation, but I wanted you to get familiar with some of the components of a policy of long-term care, because really once you understand this and you understand what the world is out there available to you, you may or may not need some of these, and we can make that available to you and take care of that. So let's get into this concept of what is extended care, because so many people think when you drive by a nursing home in a small town, that's really all that there is in terms of extended care. Extended care can really mean care in your home. It can mean care in a nursing home or long-term care facility like we talked about. My father spent the last 2 years of his life in about 2 different long-term care facilities. One was more of a traditional long-term care facility that focused on some rehabilitation to get him back up to doing some of his activities. The other one, the last few months that he spent in, was truly a memory care facility, hospice type environment as well. So there's different things like that. And then there's care in assisted living communities. These are becoming much more common. They're called continuing care communities. They could be centered around a church affiliation, some type of fraternal organization like a Masonic Lodge, something like that. There's even a teachers living community, retired teachers living community in Texas, so that you see more of these to where you kind of pay a one time, or not one time, you pay a monthly fee, just like an apartment rental, and you get access to meals, you get access to activities and things like that. And then as your care progresses, you have the ability to have someone bring meals to you or check in on you or provide light housekeeping, provide care on up until you need to go to a true nursing home facility. So those are becoming more popular. There is some ability within certain policies to cover that as well. So that's kind of a look at extended care, because it is very varied across the way. And the way that people pay for extended care is just as varied. Most people, unfortunately, spend down their personal assets and their savings. You as retired educators, most of you receiving a pension, you may have some other nest egg out there. And so you've got your personal assets. And unfortunately, many people spend it that way. The other way that most people receive some form of extended care is they get their friends or family to take care of them. And that can be great because it's someone that you trust, someone that you love, but that may stop their career and prevent them from, maybe if they're educators, and Bo and I both work with educators, with former educators that had to leave their career early because they had to take care of a parent or a grandparent, and it prevented them from earning their full pension or being fully qualified for benefits, vesting, things like that. So assistance from family and friends is probably one of the most common ways to do that, but it's the most costly, and it can truly impact your family for generations. We've unfortunately seen families that have gone through a divorce because of the required needs to take care of a loved one. And then that puts a strain on the kids, grandkids, things like that. You can enter the Medicaid program. Not something that I recommend. We're going to talk about that in a moment. Very difficult to qualify for. Quality of care may not be something that you want there. Or you can have extended care coverage, some type of policy that takes care of all those things so that you don't have to burden family members, that you can live the way that you want to live your years. And that's something that somebody put to me many years ago that said, it doesn't make any sense to work all your life really hard for the school to take care of kids in a private employer status situation, something like that, and then have somebody else determine how your care is going to be taken care of in the final years of your life. And so you taking control of that is so important. We don't know what the future holds. You know, as we get older, you may or may not be able to do certain things for yourself anymore. In the facility where my father lived in Marble Falls, just outside of Austin, a great facility. I'd go visit him frequently because our headquarters is over there in Austin. I'd go out to see him. I was blown away at the number of people under the age of 60 who were in this long-term care facility because of accidents, strokes at a young age, traumatic brain injuries, things like that. So you don't know when these things happen. It's not necessarily just a slow decline over time. It could be related to accidents. And so even younger people need long-term care services as well. We talked about the true or false quiz that I popped on you. There are some common myths out there that health insurance covers long-term care. There's common myths that Medicare will cover all your long-term care needs, that Medicare and Medicaid are the same thing, or that you're too young to buy. We're going to address those as we go through here. The services that we talked about, again, long-term care does not mean that you have to be institutionalized in some type of nursing home setting. It could be care in your home, in a community setting, assisted living facility, or that nursing home, and you can choose how you get taken care of with the proper coverage out there. This is a look at a national study. I'm going to ask you to write something down in a moment, so grab a pen real quick. A look at a national study from Mutual of Omaha, one of the best and strongest providers of long-term care, looked out there and said, you know, it's $25 an hour just to have a home health aide come into the house. For a assisted living facility, almost $6,000 a month, or $70,000 plus a year. For a semi-private nursing home, for a semi-private room in a nursing home, is $100,000 a year. My father lived in, or was in, a semi-private room in a more rural community in the state of Texas. It was over $6,000 a month. Was not the Taj Mahal. It was a very nice facility, but there are much more expensive ones out there as well. And then you move into a private room, it can be even more expensive on top of that. Now in Oklahoma, it's a little less expensive. That's the good news. The problem that you have in a state like Oklahoma is there's not always the facilities, be it a home health aide or assisted living facility that's in your community, depending on how rural you are. So you see the cost there in Oklahoma and Tulsa. You get a little more rural, like Durant, a little bit less expensive out there. So the costs are a little bit less. If you want to figure out what the cost would be near where you are, write down that address, email address, or the website address, genworth.com, GENWORTH.com, and you'll go on there and you'll look at cost of care. Click on that link, cost of care, and you can plug in a zip code, you can plug in a city, play with it and see what it would cost, the average cost in your area. So it's really a neat tool to go out there and kind of see what's out there. But you see in Oklahoma, I don't think most pension checks are this large for any one of these situations here. So I'd highly encourage you, go out there and look at what the costs are, just so that you can prepare and see what's out there for you. We talked about how you can pay. And many people say, well, I've got a nest egg that I've saved up, or we've got some money, whatever it is, we've got saved up money there. Well, sometimes those funds aren't available when you need it. You sit around the table and you say, you know what, mom can't take care of herself anymore. We're going to have to do something there. And so you understand, well, she needs to be able to take care of an assisted living facility, something like that, a decision that's very difficult to make. Then you start saying, how are we going to pay for this? And you look around at your brothers and sisters and say, I don't know how we're going to pay for this. And so you start to say, well, what kind of nest egg does mom have? Well, she's got this. Well, some of it could be in tax qualified plans that she has to take a penalty, or loss of future earnings that she may need, something like that. In states like Texas, Oklahoma, where you may have land, sometimes that means triggering and selling some type of a valuable asset that you're going to have to spend first before any type of care kicks in. So it really becomes difficult when that first dollar that you have to find to pay for the care before any type of other insurance or Medicaid or something like that, or Medicare kicks in. We talked about Medicaid, and I will tell you, Medicaid is there. It is a last resort program for people with limited assets. Oftentimes, they have to spend down almost all of their assets to qualify. And the good news, bad news is, from a retired educator standpoint, usually those on a pension do not qualify because their income is too high for this. The state will often look back and say, did you do this within the past 5 years? And disqualify you from any type of Medicaid. So it's really some legal wrangling that you have to do. And then once that loved one and you pass away, they're going to come seek reimbursement from the beneficiary from your estates. So again, it's difficult to qualify for Medicaid. I can tell you from experience, the nursing home where my father lived in Marble Falls had 3 wings in it. 2 of them were private payer wings, which meant that they either relied on long-term care coverage or their own personal assets. Much higher staff to patient ratio, much more activities, rehab, things like that. There was a 3rd wing that was Medicaid only wing, not as heavily staffed. Still, a quality of care was okay, but it was not be something that I'd want to put my father in that wing there. So again, Medicaid is available out there, difficult to qualify for. Usually the pensions don't even allow someone to qualify for that as well. So some people think, well, Medicare is going to cover this. I've got a Medicare supplement or Medicare this, Medicare that. Medicare does provide some sort of care. They will provide recovery in a skilled nursing home facility after a 3-day hospital stay. So write down 3-day hospital stay. Medicare covers the total cost in a skilled nursing care facility for the first 20 days. So I'll give you an example. Thanksgiving, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving in 2018, my father had another pretty major stroke, had to have surgery there in Austin. After he spent his time there in the hospital recovering, he was transferred to a rehab skilled nursing facility not too far from where the hospital was, where he spent 20 days learning how to feed himself, get back on his feet, walk again with some assistance, things like that. After those 20 days, he was transferred. They gave my stepmother and my time to go out and find a facility that he could go to. He was transferred out to Marble Falls and received skilled nursing care for the remaining period of 100 days, and Medicare paid $185 towards that. We were responsible for anything over that. After that 100 days, Medicare stops paying everything. So at the most, in a skilled nursing facility, a skilled nursing care, some type of rehabilitation, Medicare will pay for up to 100 days, 20 of it completely. The remainder of that 100 days at $185, they'll cover. The rest you're responsible for. Now, I asked you to write down 3-day hospital stay, and I do this for one very specific reason, simply because Medicare is changing the terminology on what qualifies as a hospital stay, okay? In my father's case, he truly stayed and spent the night because of his procedure and qualified for that. Someone could go into a hospital, stay for 3 nights, but not be considered a hospital stay. It could be a procedure such as a knee replacement surgery that Medicare has reclassified as observation status. And it's a billing code that hospitals use to bill Medicare. You may spend the night in a hospital, but you're just in observation status. You're not actually admitted as an inpatient. When you are an outpatient, even if you spend the night, Medicare does not consider that a stay, and therefore none of those rehabilitative services, those first 20 days being covered 100%, or the remaining 80 days, the remainder of those 100 days with a $185 copay, those would not be covered at all. So that really puts people at a lurch thinking, well, I've got some sort of recovery care out here after an accident, a fall, some type of surgery. Medicare changes those qualifications all the time. There's a whole new wave of procedures that in 2021 would have qualified for an overnight stay. 2022 will not qualify for an overnight stay. So again, it's important to understand that. It's important to understand and have David review what those things are and make sure that you know what you do have coverage for you. So in my opinion, the best solution, and again, I am blessed because of what my father had the vision and foresight many, many years ago, is to take out a long-term care policy that supplemented any out-of-pocket expenses that my stepmother, my brother would have had to pay for his care. He got great care over the 2 years of his life before he passed away a little over a year ago. And it allowed my stepmother to stay in her home. It protected the assets that they had earned over their lifetime and their careers there. And it helped him to get the quality of care. My stepmother provided care for him as long as she could before she could no longer physically do it without any risk to her health. But this made sure that she was able to stay in her home, live in the standard of living that she had accustomed to, and still take care of my father, still keep us connected to him as well. The stay-at-home benefits, like I mentioned there, of new long-term care policies or other types of policies are so important because they can help provide some of those household tasks like meal prep, cleaning, things like that, personal tasks like bathing, those home health aide visits. If I could have a situation to where a home health aide could have come out and take care of my father and kept him in his home, I would have done that. His condition didn't allow that. But if there was something less, I would have loved to keep him home and have a home health aide come out. The really neat feature about some of these long-term care policies today, they provide for special equipment and to retrofit your home. If staying at home simply means being able to add some pull bars in your bathroom, wheelchair ramps, things like that, widening door frames, things of that nature, that's the way I want to be taken care of in my own home. Some of these new policies can provide you with that. Some of them can provide you lump sums of cash to do that for you. Some really cool things there. As I mentioned, some of the policies, you can choose to take cash right up front from day one to use wherever you want to. Pay any costs related to the long-term care expenses, be able to provide to retrofit your home, things like that. Some policies are simply reimbursement policies that once you've satisfied that elimination period or that deductible, it will reimburse you what it actually costs you to have your care done, whether it's in the home, in a nursing home, something like that, up to the maximum benefit each month. So like I said, different ways that you can go about it. No way is better than others, but it's important that you understand what options are out there for you. I have so many people tell me, I'll wait till I'm 75 before I take out a long-term care policy. I've seen this, both seen this. The older and the longer that you wait, the more expensive the policy gets, but most importantly, the harder it is to qualify. Certain medications keep you off of it, conditions, health issues, things like that. It gets more and more difficult to qualify as you go forward. The cost of waiting also jumps up as well. Can cost you tens of thousands of more dollars the longer that you wait. So it's important to jump in when you can, to make sure that you've got the coverage early. Again, with my father, I was so blessed that he took this out long before. My stepmother used to tell me the past 2 years, she would say, every time we wrote that check out, I couldn't believe that you wanted your dad to get this when the check for the premium. And now that he's got it, I'm so thankful that he had it, because there's no way that they could have maintained what he had there if he hadn't had that long-term care. So there are other options out there. Again, if you have a long-term care policy, please get it reviewed. Do not cancel that policy. Please get it reviewed first before you do anything to that. But there are some new options out there in terms of length of coverage. You can get them for shorter periods of time. If you join us in long-term care 201, you're going to find that the average stay is not as long as you think in a nursing home or the extended care. You can vary your daily benefit up to a certain amount per month. Now you can get a little bit different coverage if you want to. You can deal with the elimination periods. We see many people that have a long-term care policy with a 180-day or 6-month elimination period. They can come in and provide some type of coverage in between there that takes care of that elimination provision. And that way there's no money out of their pocket if they ever need it. So it's a great peace of mind there. Location, I want to get taken care of at home. I want to get taken care of by my own family members. Some policies provide you with a lump sum that says, hey, if you just have a skilled nurse come by 3 days a week, then all this other money you're taking care of, you do with it what you want to. So it's really cool what's out there right now. A lot of these things, OREA has really taken the time with AMBA to make sure they fit what a retired educator needs. And so it's important to have that policy reviewed there. So any questions? We'll open that up here, see if there's anything that's popped in here, and make sure that you understand any questions that are out there. Feel free to drop them in chat, put them in Q&A. If you are joining us and you have access to your cell phone, take your cell phone out, open up your camera on your cell phone, and hover over that QR code on the left-hand corner there. A little form will pop up. Simply hit that form and answer or ask a few questions that you want to ask in terms of, I'd like information about home health care or long-term care, or I just want somebody to review my benefits that that OREA has for me. Do that, fill that out. We'll get that taken care of right away. If you are on your phone or on an iPad or something like that, and you cannot get access to your camera, simply email me, john.green@amba.info, and drop that in there. Bo, have we had any questions or anything you want to add into the conversation today?
Yeah, John, it looks like you've covered everything pretty well. We did have a couple of questions from members who already have long-term care policies, and both said it's something they bought years ago, and they just didn't know if it would still cover, the healthcare and elder care for today. Is that something that you can help them with, that sort of thing?
Absolutely. I said that's why we're having this. I love people who have taken that step, that have already purchased a long-term care policy. It's important to periodically review that. Make sure that, one, first of all, it covers what you need. Second of all, if there's an elimination period in there, like we talked about, that deductible, that if there is a deductible in there, that you have the money set aside when you need that coverage. Because if you have to spend money out of your pocket significantly or pay down a nest egg just to wait on the long-term care coverage, there may be some other options there. One thing that we found out, especially with individuals who bought maybe a group long-term care policy through their school in the past, many companies have stopped offering those plans and started converting them to individual plans. And when they do that, sometimes they'll start to they start to raise rates significantly and offer some options out there that can help reduce your rate. That usually means a significant reduction in coverage. Please, please, please email me there, or use that QR code and let David and his team review that policy. You did the right thing taking out long-term care insurance. Let's review it and make sure that it's proper for you. Again, don't cancel it just because you're frustrated that you're having to pay premiums. Please review it. And that's what that QR code is there for, as well as my email address to get in contact with me so that we can do that for you as well. Like I mentioned, I started my schooling in Oklahoma, have lots of family members. I grew up on the Red River in the Henrietta, Nocona area, and would go back and forth. A proud state, a lot of military community, a lot of military families in Oklahoma. We often get a question that talks about VA benefits. And Bo had a situation to where he had an uncle that qualified for VA benefits for the veterans home. Great coverage. The challenge was, it took, how long, Bo, was it before your uncle was eligible to actually move in? There was space for him to move in.
Yeah, it was years. It was almost 3 years just to wait for his spot. And it's great care. I mean, now he's where he is. He's actually improving quite a bit and getting great care. But yeah, he had to foot the bill for almost 3 years waiting for his spot there. So yeah, definitely important.
So like I said, it's important to understand, like I said, the VA benefits are great. What are we going to do until there's room to get in, because there's large demand for that, and there are fewer homes, things like that. So again, important to understand, get someone to answer all of your questions. I'll put this QR code up here in a moment, my email address up, and we'll leave that up at the end as well. Just a couple of reminders here. Tea Time with Tucker continues in November, just about every Tuesday in November before Thanksgiving, talking about long-term care 201. What that's coming next. We're going to talk, what are some of those next level questions that you have? We've done this in a couple of other states, and we get a lot of questions that say, well, what if I notice my mom is sort of slipping, but I don't think she needs care yet? Is there anything I can do? What happens if I need knee replacement surgery or hip replacement? Is there anything that covers me for a short period of time? Is there anything that covers me just at home? That type of stuff. Or I don't qualify for long-term care insurance because I've got a health issue that doesn't do that. Is there anything out there that could cover me or provide for me? Yes, there is. Come back on the 2nd. We're going to talk about that. On the 9th, we're going to talk about the emergency transportation issues in Oklahoma, talk about the level 1 trauma care centers that there are in the state and what that means for you. On the 16th, right before the week of Thanksgiving, we're going to talk about the real cost of a cancer diagnosis. And then we're going to wrap up Tea Time with Tucker for this year before we start back in January of 2022. This is the fastest year on record. We're going to talk about the perks of membership, do a special holiday edition. For those of you who are doing Christmas shopping, planning and travel, that kind of stuff, we're going to show you all the latest discounts, the fun stuff out there. So make sure you sign up, be on the lookout from the emails from Sabra and OREA, look on the website, check out social media, all that kind of stuff like that, pre-register, tell your friends about this. Tell your retired coworkers, active teachers, anybody that needs to know about the information, these educational webinars, the Tea Time with Tucker. Let them know this is a phenomenal way to introduce OREA to potential members. And the more that we grow OREA, the more membership that we have. Whenever Sabra, whenever y'all start lighting up the phone lines to your legislators that say protect our pensions, increase the pay for our active teachers, help us retain teachers, all that kind of stuff, the more voices, the better. So please, please, please step up and help Sabra and the rest of the crew do that. Sabra, you want to put in a membership plug real quick before we wrap it up?
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us for tea time today. And I want you to know that John is exactly right. The more members we have, the louder our voice at the state legislature and all other state agencies that affect the quality of life for Oklahoma's education retirees. So feel free to share. And if you have a question about how to share, or just give us a call at 405-525-2230, or find us at orea.org.
Great. Thank you, Sabra. Have a great one. Thanks for spilling the tea with us today. I'm going to stop recording. But if you want to hang on and chat back and forth, drop something in the Q&A. My email address is there. The QR code is there as well. And feel free to do so. We thank you.